Hey, what's up guys? John from Linkswell here with another install video. Today we're going to be installing a Generation 6 T-Style in this 2021 Ford Ranger. We got a radio for 18 and up Ford Ranger. That's what we're going to do today. So let's get at it. All right guys, that's right. We're putting ourselves a 12-inch screen in this Ford Ranger. This will work on any Ford Ranger, whether you've got the little 4-inch screen like we have on this truck, or whether you've got the 8-inch screen. Same radio will work. We actually replace a couple of these panels, so you're actually gonna get the radio and 2 dash panels to kind of clear it off. But it'll work on any of those. Install should be fairly the same. If you've seen any of our F-150, the variants will be the same. Sometimes the screen stays with this piece, sometimes the screen's separate, but we are going to walk through. It's a fairly simple install. So you're going to want to get yourself a 7mm bit for your drill or ratchet or whatever you're going to use, a little panel popper like this. And yeah, the disassembly is fairly simple. Most of it's going to be pop off. So we're going to pop off the parts here on top. So we're going to pop off this air vent here on the left hand side. We're going to pop off the air vent and the piece that goes across to the other side of the air vent. This whole piece will pop off. Then we're going to pop off this lower part here on each side. We'll pop off one on the left side, one on the right side, and then that's going to let us pop off this middle piece that goes across over the top of the air vent underneath the Ranger bezel. So we'll pull the air vents, pull these bottom pieces, pull this piece that goes across the top, and that's going to reveal some 7mm for us to be able to pull off our climate control pieces here and the top radio bezel. We'll get those off. Then down here below, we'll pull off the AC, and there'll be 2 more 7mm hidden behind there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to speed up the video. I'm going to get this tore apart. When I get to that part where those 2 hidden ones, I will talk again. And then once it's all tore apart, we'll take a look at the plugs, we'll look at the radio, and we'll do this install right quick. Sound good? Cool. Let's get this thing apart. So real quick, when it comes to these bottom guys here, you're gonna pull forward or pull towards you. They're clipped in like going into the dash. So you're gonna kind of want to get in there and pull them towards you. On the driver's side, the kick rail here, the knee board, that's all just clips. So you can pull that down, which will like kind of let go of this clip here. But we'll pull this off, we'll pull that off, and then we're gonna get this going. And then again, we'll talk about those hidden 7mm. But yeah, let's keep going. All right, so we've got those panels off, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pull this last little piece off here so that we can see these 7mm that you should be able to see here. We have a 7mm here, there's gonna be a 7mm there, and then there's 2 7mm holding this piece down here below with the 2 cigarette lighters. So we're gonna pull these off, and then that panel is gonna pop down or pop out and lower so that it can reveal 2 7mm holding the bottom part of the back piece down. We'll get those out, and then we'll pop it off, and we'll talk about some of the plugs. So there you go. So I got this panel off here. Like I said, pop this down. Should have been 6 7mm. 2 holding this down, 2 holding these down, or sorry, 4 holding these down, 2 holding this down. Now back in here, you should be able to see there's 2 more 7mm holding right back here, holding the bottom of this. So we're gonna pull that out. We'll unplug all this, and then we'll start talking about what plugs go where to run things, and yeah, I mean, like I said, pretty quick install, so let's get going. So here's where everything's gonna be pretty much identical, regardless of what size screen you have. You're gonna have 4 screws here holding the screen in, and then you're gonna have 4 screws here holding the radio chassis in. So we're gonna pull both of these out. And then this is going to be where we adapt our factory USB adapter as well as our factory camera. Will come from the plugs behind the screen. The main power harness, the AM/FM antenna, will come from behind the radio. And then we will talk about all the different accessory plugs that we have for our radio, the adapters. We'll talk about the dash panels. So let me go ahead and get these these 2 pieces out here, and then I'll catch you up in a second. All right, guys, so that's pretty much the gist of getting the factory stuff out. And like I mentioned, this big plug here is going to be what we adapt to retain our factory reverse camera. This mini USB here is going to be what retains our the factory USB hubs. Like I say in every install, those factory hubs are going to work. Don't try plugging your iPhone into it, and most Androids, because the hub's going to create like a voltage thing. It's not going to want to do the handshake. So just know aftermarket radios tend to not work well with factory hubs for that reason, because the factory hubs hold too much electronics in it. It's how Ford adapts to a phone. We do it internally, so when they mix up, it just doesn't work well. But then you have the two power plugs from the back of the radio, as well as an antenna. Now, if you have a system that has the factory XM, you'll probably pull off a yellow antenna. Don't use that one unless you're putting in a Generation 5 T-style with a V300 tuner. Then you can go ahead and use that factory factory XM tuner antenna. But this one, we're going to use this black one here. That's going to be for our FM. And yeah, so let me real quick go through the plugs that are going to come with your T-style radio. This will be the same pretty much across all the radios. I'll let you know what's specific to Gen 6. And that's basically in the antennas. Let me grab all the antennas here. So in your kit with a Gen 6, you should end up with 4 antennas. With a Generation 5 or 4P, you'll only have 2 antennas. So the antennas that they will share is going to be this guy here. With a blue plug, it's going to be your GPS antenna. Now, even if you don't get the built-in iGo navigation, and you're going to do CarPlay, you're going to do Google Maps or something, this needs to be installed because the radio and even CarPlay is going to need this antenna to know where it's at. So make sure you install this. This can go underneath the dash here. You just want to make sure that there's no metal between it and the sky. All antennas work better outside the dash. So hear me say that, but most antennas will work inside the dash as well. You just want to stay away from metal. Metal tends to mess things up. So like this one here, I'll probably stick right here on top of the air vent, just nice and hidden there. So that's our GPS antenna. Then you're going to end up with 3 that look like this, but 2 different plugs. So this one here, the little screw-on end, is for your Wi-Fi. So again, let me mention the Wi-Fi. If you don't plan on using Wi-Fi, but you want to use wireless CarPlay or wireless Android Auto, this antenna has to be in there. If this antenna is not installed, then your wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto will not connect. So you have to connect this. This too, very similar to the GPS antenna, can stay inside the plastic here. Keep it away from the metal. Again, if it's outside the plastic, the less things impeding its ability to connect to its source always will work better. So if you're cool with running it up, putting it up on the windshield or something like that, you will get better response from it. That's just the nature of technology. Or you can, stick it here on the side. That's probably what we'll end up doing on this install, just to keep things hidden. And then the last 2 antennas are going to be these 2 guys here. These are going to be only for Generation 6. These are because with Generation 6, we are able to add a SIM card. So these are your 4G antennas. So these antennas are going to need to be plugged in order for you to use the onboard SIM card. You may think, I don't want SIM cards, so I don't care, I'm not going to install them. I would tell you to install them anyways, because you may not want the SIM card now, but you may later. So I would say install these. Same rules as the Wi-Fi. If it's outside, it will work better, or outside the dash, it will work better, but it will work inside the dash. So that's these antennas. So you have your nav antenna, you have your Wi-Fi antenna, and you have your 4G antenna if you're doing a Gen 6. Then we'll talk about some of our accessory plugs. First one's going to be our green plug. This one here says DVR cable. Really, it's an output. It's going to give you a power, a ground, and an ignition wire. Should you be connecting some extra cameras or something like that, some other devices, you need some kind of output or power to power those. You can use this green plug here. Low amp, we're talking maybe 3-5 amp draw, so don't put a big draw on these, because otherwise you'll end up blowing the circuits inside the radio. Next one's going to be our gray plug here. This is our auxiliary in. So if you wanted to run old school like headphone jack or something like that, you wanted some kind of auxiliary audio in, that's where this guy here would go. Then we have our USB 3, which is going to be this white plug here. This one can run anywhere, so if you're running one of our DVR cameras, our USB DVR cameras, this is a great USB to use for that. Put the camera up on the windshield, run the DVR down, plug it in, bing bang boom, and yeah, it'll do all the cool things that our DVR does. But this can be ran into a glove box, Some guys will actually take apart those factory USB hubs and put this in there so that you can do things like your phone connections. Next plug will be our black one. This is our camera input plug. So you notice there's 3 RCAs there. What that means is we have 3 different inputs for cameras from the factory, nothing extra needed. That means you can have a reverse camera, a front camera, and a side camera. One side camera. You pick the side camera in the settings. And you'll just plug those into the RCA. So for us, we're just going to be using the factory input. When we use the adapter here on this big 54-pin plug, we're going to plug our RCA into that so that we can retain our factory reverse camera. So that's the black plug. Next one's going to be our red USB. This is USB 1 and 2. So you'll have another one, standard USB, that you'll be able to run into a glove box or something like that. A lot of guys will do some like 1 terabyte hard drives where they just threw a ton of music and a ton of movies into, and they want to have just a catalog in their vehicle. That's a great USB to use for that. And then there you can see our mini USB adapter. That's what is going to plug into the one that came off from behind the screen. That will be that black one there. Next will be our yellow audio out and microphone input. So even if you're not using amplifiers, you got to plug this in because that's where the microphone goes. The microphone plugs into this yellow plug here. But there's all your RCA pre-outs, front, rear, and sub. When you have a Gen 6, you're going to have a 4-volt RMS when it comes to your RCA outputs. If you have a Gen 5 or 4P, you're going to be 5-volt max. It's a variable, so it's 5-volt peak at peak volume. Normal volume, you're probably running around 2 volts, just so you know. And then the last plug is going to be the purple one, which is our Toslink. So any of you guys that have gotten any of the high-end DSPs, high-end amplifiers, and you want to have a clean digital signal, we do have a Toslink for you. Perhaps you're putting in one of our 4 or 5 channel plug-and-play amplifiers. Bing, bang, boom, that's Toslink that comes in that harness. So plug right into that. If you don't know about our amps, make sure you check that video out. You can see what we have going on. Next thing that comes in the kit is going to be our microphone, of course. Yes, hear me, you have to install the microphone. No, there's not a microphone on the face of the radio, and no, we do not retain the factory microphone. Long story short, we can't because of quality control. It just would be not wise for us to depend on a different part that we have no way of testing or replacing should something go wrong. It's just quality control, guys. We can quality control parts we put in our radio. So yes, you have to run our microphone. So for me, I'm going to run it up here on the A-pillar like a normal aftermarket radio. You can get up here into the factory center console, pull off those factory microphones if you want to. Some guys will put it up here on the cluster dash or on the top of the steering shroud. Just you want it away from an air vent. You want it to not rattle, and you don't want it super close to your mouth, and you also don't want it super far. That's kind of the rules when it comes to your microphone in. That's why the A-pillar tends to be a really solid place to put it. So that's where I'm going to go ahead and install it. And then the last couple things that we're going to get out of our kit here is going to be our main harnesses. So here is the one I told you about. That's going to plug into our big 54 pin. So I'll just go ahead and do that while we're talking. So that's going to go in there, slide that so it locks in. And you can see now we have a yellow RCA there as well. We've got a couple plugs here. Now these plugs aren't going to go to anything unless you're adding one of our multicams or you've got a Ford with the factory 360 and you need to retain that. We have that part number. So these two, this plug here with the 6 wires is actually going to go to our main harness. There'll be a female side here, as well as this orange and black USB power. There will be a matching one on this main power harness. And so you want to make sure you put those in. This big black one, if you don't have the 360 or you're not using one of our multicam interfaces, it's just going to stay unplugged and do nothing. Don't sweat it. It's no big deal. Cool? Sweet. And then our main power plug here. So I want you to notice there is a white plug here with a male and a female. These are the speaker leads. You just want to make sure you plug that in because if you don't, well, guess what? You won't have any audio. So make sure that gets plugged in. And as I mentioned before, you should have a couple corresponding plugs for one right there for your camera adapter plug that was up here on this main one. You should also have a orange and black one here. You can see that there. That's going to be your USB power. So if you don't plug this in, your factory USBs aren't going to have power. A couple things on these wires here. If you are adding an amplifier, our orange wire here marked amp EN, that's going to be your amp turn on. So you're going to run that. Your SWIs, your SCW wires, really you don't need to worry about those. Those are for a very, 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 very rare situation where we have a super strip truck and we're going to try and add some sort of external steering wheel controls, we just have them on the harness for those very, very rare occasions, but they're there. And then the last wire is going to be your 360 trigger. This here is if you're going to add a third-party switcher, camera switcher of some sort, and you need to force the radio into reverse. Feeding power into this will force the radio into reverse. Most of the time that's not going to be needed unless you're using a third-party part, but that would be your trigger in there. And then if you have the factory sub, you'll want to plug that RCA into the sub. Now let me say, if you have Bang & Olufsen, you guys need to stop right now if you don't have the adapter. You need to make sure you get the adapter. How do you know if you have Bang & Olufsen? Well, first off, there should be a B&O symbol on one of your tweeter mounts. And if you pull out this factory chassis, and there's a mini blue USB. So it's a mini USB, looks just like this, but it's a color blue. If you have that, you have a Bang & Olufsen system, and you are going to need the adapter that retains the factory chassis and does all that stuff. So if you're installing and you're watching this and you have Bang & Olufsen and you realize you have that blue USB and you don't have that adapter, you're gonna wanna get that adapter before you keep moving, just so you know. And then the last thing is our CAN box here. This guy here is gonna plug into this white plug that has a tag that says CAN box on it on our main power harness, just like that. If you don't plug that in, guess what? Things like steering wheel controls, AC, and even the radio turning on, none of that stuff's gonna work, because everything in these vehicles nowadays is old data. There's no hard wires anymore. So without this CAN box, the radio has no idea what it's supposed to do and therefore will not do anything. So that's pretty much all of our harnesses, all of our plugs. Let me plug these in so that they don't get in my way. And then I want to talk real quick bezels, because as I mentioned, our kits come with 2 extra bezels, because this piece here that went across the middle is now going to be a screen. So we had to do something here. So we have a short one here that's going to go on your driver's side so that it can go here. And then we have a longer one that's going to go running across here and snap like that. Both of those panels are going to go on after we put the radio in. Take your factory panels here, flip them around. You see all of these cool white tabs. You need them. So grab yourself a little screwdriver, a little pick or something, start pulling off all these things, because you're going to need to put them onto the new panels. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We'll speed up the video. I'm going to get the plugs together, run some stuff in. We'll plug the radio in. We'll get it powered on. We'll talk about programming climate controls. Oh, you know what? One more thing. There's this cool little baggie here, and it has a SIM card adapter. So somebody asked me what happens if your SIM card's too small. Well, we have this little adapter in there. So don't throw this away, just in case. Most of the time when you go to your provider and you get a SIM card, it's going to look like a business card. And the SIM card actually has like variable pop-outs for different sizes depending on the application. But just in case, that's what this is here. And the SIM card actually will go into the back of the radio, about a 6-inch little pigtail with a black box on there. I got a quick video. I'll put the link here so that you guys can click it afterwards if you want. Just showing about how to put it into the SIM card, how to kind of power it on and whatnot. Let me say, AT&T guys, man, we are still struggling with AT&T. Verizon, T-Mobile works pretty good, but that's the SIM card stuff. So let me get the microphone in, let me get my USBs ran, let me get my plugs in, let me get all these white clips off, put these clips onto the new bezels. I'm gonna get the radio, mount the radio, start snapping some panels on, and then we will talk about power up and climate controls. And then guys, we'll be pretty much done, and then you guys can enjoy your own T-Star radio in a Ford Ranger. So let's get at it. All right guys, so real quick before I put this in, let me flip this around. Here's the SIM card holder I was talking about. You can see this about 6-inch little thing coming off there. So the door opens, SIM card goes in there. You have an HDMI out coming out of the radio. If you want HDMI in, we do have an HDMI in adapter that will take over one of your USBs. So you'll lose a USB to gain HDMI. But then I wanted to real quick just point out that the AC controls, it has 3 plugs. That's because we use the same board for the Expedition. You should only have 2 plugs on the back of your radio, so don't freak out that there's a 3rd one. This one in the middle, I'm pretty sure it's the middle one, you don't need. That's for the Expedition only. And then up here, I will put a picture on the screen just so you know where each adapter or one accessory plugs go in there. They are keyed, so they shouldn't go into the wrong hole. But we have a lot of folks that end up putting in the wrong hole just by forcing them in there. So we're gonna go ahead and I will put a picture up there for you guys. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get everything all plugged in now. And yeah, plug it in, put some screws in. We'll talk about snapping panels back on and then we'll turn it on. Cool, let's do it. All right, so when you get it in there should be a little tab up here. You're gonna kind of slide it in like that, so it sits behind here. You'll have 4 screws that hold the top in, and then down underneath here, you're gonna have those 2 that are hidden behind the cigarette lighters, so we're gonna put those in real quick, and then this will snap back on there, and then we'll put the 2 screws that hold the cigarette lighter things back on, and then we'll talk about panels. So let me get those last 4 screws in, and we'll talk panels. All right, cool. So we got our 6 panels in. This is back in down here with the cigarette lighters. Like I said, make sure you plug in those AC controls while you're doing it. So the first panels that are gonna go back on are actually the last ones we took off, so they're actually gonna be the ones that we supply here. So we're gonna go ahead and put our long one on that side, and then we will go ahead and we will put our short one on this side. We're gonna snap those in. Once we snap those in, then we can take our air vent pieces and put those back in. And then the side pieces down here that go on each side, we can snap those back in, put the knee board back up, and then I'll turn it on. Cool? Let's put those panels on. Real quick, if you've got a push start truck, you will need to move your push start button over into this panel. You should have the screws, everything should be right there. It should be super straightforward. I just don't happen to have a push start on this one. So if you have that push start, that's the piece you'll take out so that you can make sure that you can start your truck again. So cool. Now we're gonna go ahead and put panels on. There you go, guys. What do you say we turn her on? All right, there she goes, guys. She is on now. The next thing we got to do is tell it what kind of truck we had, the features we had. So real quick, I'll walk you through how to do the initial setup. So we're gonna swipe up so we can get to all of our apps. We're gonna open up settings, and then up on top, we're gonna go to system. From system, we're gonna hit settings guide. Settings guide, we're gonna hit car model, AC. And then you're gonna see Ford, and your options are Mustang low, Mustang high, Ford, or F-150 low, F-150 high. So as I mentioned earlier about the Climate board being the same as the Expedition, if you are a F-150, if you're a 250, 350, 450, if you're an Expedition, if you're a Ranger, all of them are kind of running on the same basis when it comes to the climate controls. So really, we probably should just make that say Ford truck, but it is what it is. So Ford low means that you have single zone. Ford high means you have dual zone, meaning you can adjust temperature on each individual side. For us, we are a low. And then we have other with touchscreen or 2013. Obviously, we're not a 2013. That's going to be for the older F-150s. With touchscreen 360 means that you've used our 360 module because you have the factory 360. If you don't have factory 360, then you'll hit other. Once you've selected the vehicle, it's going to say, do you want to, it'll say basically current, this is what you have set, you want to, hit OK, and then it's going to save and reboot, and it's going to reboot the screen and make those settings saved for you. And then that should do majority of any of the settings that you need to worry about. Once it reboots, what I'll do is I'll walk you through real quick how to adjust things like the camera, how to adjust things perhaps like if you have seat heaters or seat coolers and those controls didn't pop on, and then I'll real quick show you how to access those. Climate controls should you be doing a Generation 6. Generation 5 and 4P have a little bit different UI, but you can watch any of our videos of the Gen 5 and the functions of it. It'll work the same on the Ranger. It doesn't matter on the radio because the generation's the same. So cool, we're all powered back on. So if we swipe up again, we can go back into settings. We're gonna open up settings and go back into system, settings guide. And here you can see where we have options as seat and wheel. So if we were to select that, here's where we can say we have a heated steering wheel, we have heated seats, we have cooled seats, camera switch. So here's where you would say, I do have a 360. If it's not working, you flip it on there. Or multicam. Now let me say this, if you have 360, do not turn on multicam. If you're using our multicam, do not turn on 360. If they're both on, neither one of them will work. But that's where you get there. I actually just did a video in our Jeep that I should be posting pretty soon here. Showing the multi-camera interface, so if that's something you guys are after, make sure to check that out in our things. Options like reverse mute, attenuate, on or off. What that means is attenuate means when I put it in reverse, the volume lowers. When it's on, it means it mutes it completely. When it's off, then it means that when I go in reverse, nothing changes. Radar sound, should you have factory backup sensors if you want those to work. Show door trip, those are like the door fronts, the door status, that was a little truck that was showing up there. So lots of cool features there for you. Then you have like the general features where you can set your clock and dimmer and all that good stuff, all right there. And yeah, so real quick, how do you get to those climate controls? So you can see this little bar here down at the bottom is very similar to the XL. You will just swipe it, and now you've got your basic controls for your climate controls. If you tap that button, now you've got the full screen up on top. If you had heated seats or cooled seats, heated steering wheel, all those options would be right there. That's where you would select them. And yeah, then you'd be rock and rolling. You're good to go. After that, homepage. If you want to know how to customize the homepage, go watch some of our XL videos. Like I said, Gen 6 XL is going to be the same thing. You want to see some of the cool features, some of the cool apps, check out our XL Gen 6 playlist. We got some videos in there. But that's pretty much it, guys. That's how you go from that little itty bitty 4-inch screen all the way to this big old 12.1-inch screen on your 2018 or up Ford Ranger. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys next time.